6 months after Earth's withdrawal from the galactic conclave, Diane Reynolds stared at her monitor with growing unease. As lead communications officer at Outpost Delta on the edge of human space, she was used to tracking signals from alien vessels, even if direct contact was now forbidden. But today, like yesterday and the day before, the channels were eerily quiet. "Still nothing?" asked her supervisor, walking up behind her. "Nothing, sir. Sector 12 used to have at least 30 cargo ships passing through daily. Now," she gestured at the empty readouts. Commander Frank Peters frowned, his gray eyes scanning the data. "Same in sectors 9 through 14. It's like they've abandoned the routes completely." "Could they have developed new cloaking tech?" Diane suggested. "All of them." At once. Frank shook his head. "Something else is happening." A young technician approached with a tablet. "Sir, we just got this from Ganymede Station. They've been monitoring radio emissions from Syntheri space." Frank took the tablet, his frown deepening as he read. "Get me a secure line to Earth Central. Now." In the underground research facility beneath New Geneva, Lisa Nelson hunched over a holographic display showing trade route statistics. Next to her, Paul Howard was analyzing debris samples collected by automated probes. "The pattern is unmistakable," Lisa said, pushing a strand of blonde hair from her face. "First, the diplomatic channels went quiet. Then the trade routes. Now, even their emergency beacons are going dark." Paul looked up from his microscope. "This material is from a Brachian freighter. Their hulls are practically indestructible, yet something tore it apart." Lisa was about to respond when the lab doors slid open. A military officer strode in, flanked by security personnel. "Dr. Nelson, Dr. Howard, your presence is requested at Earth Central immediately." "What's this about?" Paul asked, standing. "Classified. Transport leaves in 30 minutes. The Situation Room at Earth Central hummed with tense energy. Screens displayed star maps with vast areas marked in red. President Clark stood at the head of the table, her face grave as Frank Peters delivered his report via video link. "The silence is spreading, Madam President. What began in sectors adjacent to our space has now reached as far as the Centauri Alliance territories." George Mason, now Earth's Director of Extraterrestrial Affairs, leaned forward. "And we're certain this isn't just them avoiding us." "The evidence suggests otherwise," Lisa Nelson interjected, displaying her findings. "These are energy readings from the Tarvos asteroid belt, where the Makari operated their largest mining operation. It's completely abandoned. Equipment left running, partially processed ore still in the refineries." "Like they left in a hurry," Paul Howard added. A woman at the end of the table cleared her throat. Admiral Karen Wilson, head of Earth's Defense Forces, rarely spoke unless she had something significant to say. "We intercepted this 2 days ago. It was heavily encrypted." The room's main screen flickered, showing the grainy video. A panicked alien, one of the insectoid Vosh, chittered frantically in their language. The translation scrolled beneath. "Cannot hold position. Fleet approaching. No warning. No demands. Please send assistance. They say only the balance is broken. Without human mediation, the old treaties are void. Please." The message cut off abruptly. President Clark broke the heavy silence. "Recommendations. We maintain isolation," George said firmly. "This isn't our fight." Admiral Wilson disagreed. "We should at least gather intelligence. Send unmanned probes deeper into affected space. And if those probes discover something that requires immediate action, ask the President." No one answered immediately. Finally, Frank Peters spoke from the video screen. "Madam President, I request permission to take the stealth vessel Vigilant beyond our borders. Small crew, minimal footprint. We need eyes out there." The President studied the expanding red zones on the star map. "Authorized." "But Frank," her eyes narrowed, "you are to observe only. Earth has made its position clear." As the meeting adjourned, Lisa approached George. "They need us out there." "Maybe," George replied, watching the silent stars on the display. But first, they need to learn they need us. 2 years had passed since humanity withdrew from galactic affairs. The silence that began as a ripple had become a wave, sweeping across half the known galaxy. Earth's leaders debated behind closed doors, while their sensors recorded the spreading darkness. Olivia Grant never cared much for politics. As captain of the independent trading vessel Wanderer, she cared about profit margins and keeping her small crew fed. The ban on alien contact had nearly bankrupted her, until she discovered Earth Central's blind spots. Coming up on the Corelli debris field, her navigator Alan Wright announced, his fingers dancing across the controls. Still clear of Earth patrols. Olivia nodded, checking her ship's signature masking system. Take us in slowly. The last trader who came through said the Corelli were desperate for medical supplies. Desperate enough to pay double in rare minerals, added Samuel Chen, her business partner. If we can make this run monthly, one trip at a time, Olivia cautioned. Let's see what's left of them first. The small vessel dropped out of hyperspace, and 3 humans gasped in unison. Where the Corelli orbital trading post should have been, only twisted metal and floating debris remained. The planet below showed dark patches visible even from orbit. Cities burned to ash. Scan for life signs, Olivia ordered, her voice tight. Alain worked his console. I'm getting. Wait, there's a small pocket. Underground bunker, maybe. And a transmission, very weak. Put it through. A crackling voice filled the bridge, speaking broken English. Any vessel. Please respond. Survivors require evacuation. Olivia exchanged looks with her crew. Responding meant breaking Earth's strict isolation policy. Getting caught meant prison. Send our coordinates, she decided. Tell them we can take 20, no more. 6 hours later, 17 Corelli survivors huddled in the Wanderer's cargo hold. They were avian humanoids with feathered crests and hollow bones. Many were injured. All were terrified. Olivia sat across from their elder, a female named Krita whose once vibrant plumage had dulled with age and trauma. What happened here? Olivia asked simply. Krita's eyes closed briefly. When humans left the conclave, everything changed. The Brachians claimed we violated old territory agreements, agreements your kind helped mediate centuries ago. Without human peacekeepers, she gestured toward the view screen showing her ruined world. This is happening everywhere. The old empires rise again. The strong consume the weak. Krita leaned forward. Your leaders do not understand. Humans were the balance. Your species thinks differently. You find solutions where we see only problems. Samuel, who had been listening nearby, spoke up. But the conclave treated us like children. They limited our expansion, restricted our trade. Yes, Krita admitted. The ancient races feared you. Humans advance in decades what took others centuries. Some wanted to contain you. Now they pay the price of success. Olivia's communication panel chimed. A new signal. Powerful and clear. Unknown vessel. This is Captain William Flynn of Earth Vessel Harbinger. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself. Olivia's heart sank. Earth military. They were caught. This is Olivia Grant of Independent Trader Wanderer. We have refugees aboard. A pause. Then, stand by for boarding, Wanderer. Do not attempt to flee. 30 minutes later, Captain Flynn stood in Olivia's cargo bay, surveying the Corelli survivors. His uniform was crisp, his expression unreadable. You've violated at least 6 regulations, Captain Grant. These people were dying, Olivia challenged. Flynn nodded to his team, who began distributing supplies to the refugees. Technically, I'm here on a classified reconnaissance mission. I haven't seen any illegal trading activity. He locked eyes with Olivia. But I have discovered critical intelligence about galactic instability. You're not arresting us. No, I'm requisitioning your vessel and crew for an emergency mission. Flynn showed her his tablet. On it was displayed a massive fleet of ships, refugees from dozens of species heading directly toward Earth space. The situation has escalated beyond our estimates, Flynn said quietly. Earth needs to know what's coming. Captain William Flynn pressed his face against the viewport of the stealth vessel Harbinger. The darkness of space greeted him, broken only by distant stars and the occasional flash of weapons fire. "What's our status, Lieutenant?" he asked, not turning from the view. Heather Martinez, his intelligence officer, studied her display. "We're holding position just outside the Vega corridor, sir. Scanners show two fleets engaged about 500,000 kilometers ahead." "Can you identify them?" "The larger force appears to be Syntheri. The smaller," she frowned, "Lantine vessels, sir. They were allies for over 3 centuries. Flynn nodded grimly. This was the 4th such conflict they'd observed in 2 weeks. Former friends tearing each other apart across the stars. "Record everything," he ordered, "and prep the jump drive. We need to get closer." Commander Eric Wells looked up sharply. "Sir, our orders are to gather intelligence, Commander. That's what we're doing." A Harbinger slipped silently through space, its advanced cloaking technology, ironically, developed with Syntheri components before the withdrawal, keeping them invisible to the warring parties. As they approached, the brutality of the battle became clear. Lantine ships, once proud and elegant, burned against the void. The Syntheri capital ships moved methodically, executing what looked less like a battle and more like an extermination. "Sir," Heather called urgently, "I'm picking up a distress signal. Small craft, diplomatic codes. It's trying to escape the battlefield." Flynn hesitated only briefly. "Plot an intercept course. Maintain cloak until the last moment." "Captain," Wells protested, "this goes beyond reconnaissance." "Note your objection, Commander. Lieutenant Martinez, can you establish communication with that vessel?" "Working on it, sir." The Harbinger closed on the small diplomatic shuttle as it desperately evaded Syntheri fire. Just as a cruiser locked weapons on the fleeing craft, Flynn gave the order. "Drop cloak. Open channel." The Harbinger shimmered into visibility, its suddenly revealed presence causing the Syntheri ships to hesitate. "Diplomatic vessel, this is Captain Flynn of Earth vessel Harbinger. We can provide assistance. Respond." A strained voice answered. "Earth? Impossible. You abandoned the galaxy. We'll explain later. Match your speed to ours and prepare for emergency docking." The shuttle complied. Minutes later, amid blaring alarms as the Syntheri forces recovered from their surprise, the smaller craft docked with the Harbinger. As soon as it's secured, Flynn ordered a jump to safety. The diplomat was Jariel, a high-ranking member of the Lantine Council. His gray skin was ashen with exhaustion, and one of his 4 arms hung uselessly at his side. "You saved my life, Captain," he said as the medical officer treated his injuries. "But why?" "Earth made its position clear 2 years ago." Flynn sat across from him in the medical bay. "We're on a reconnaissance mission. Earth needed to understand what's happening out here." "What's happening?" Jariel laughed bitterly. "The collapse of 1,000 years of peace is what's happening." "Tell me," Flynn said quietly. Jariel looked at him with 3 blinking eyes. "When humans withdrew, everything unraveled. Your species was the keystone none of us recognized. Your innovations kept our economies growing. Your diplomatic skills prevented old hatreds from resurfacing. That doesn't explain total war, doesn't it?" Jariel winced as the medic adjusted his injured arm. "The Syntheri blamed us for supporting human autonomy in the Conclave. When resources became scarce after human technologies were no longer available, they claimed our territories contained minerals they needed. Heather Martinez joined them, her tablet displaying intercepted communications. "Sir, I've decoded their battle transmissions. This isn't an isolated incident. The Syntheri have attacked 3 other former allies in this sector alone. Because without humans, the balance of power shifted," Jariel added. "Now ancient empires reclaim what they once held, while younger races flee or die." Flynn's comm unit chimed. "Captain, this is the bridge." Long-range scanners show a massive collection of ships approaching Earth space. Hundreds of vessels, multiple species. "Refugees," Jariel said softly, "seeking the only world that might still be stable." Flynn stood. "Lieutenant Martinez, prepare a complete data package for Earth Central." "Commander Wells, set course for home. Maximum speed." He looked at Jariel. "It seems your people aren't the only ones who need us." "No, Captain," the alien replied. "The entire galaxy needs you now." The Grand Hall of Earth Central buzzed with urgent voices. Officials from every continent crowded into the chamber as Captain Flynn's team presented their findings. Holographic displays showed burning worlds, refugee fleets, and the collapse of galactic civilization. President Clark sat stone-faced at the center table, flanked by her advisors. Admiral Wilson studied the tactical displays with a deepening frown. George Mason, the man who had led Earth's withdrawal 2 years earlier, watched silently from his seat. "The situation is deteriorating faster than we anticipated," Flynn concluded, gesturing to the star map, where red zones of conflict now covered nearly 70% of known space. "The refugee fleet approaching our borders contains ships from 26 different species. Preliminary estimates suggest over 3 million individuals. And they all want Earth's protection?" Admiral Wilson asked. Heather Martinez stepped forward. "Yes, Admiral. Our analysis of intercepted communications indicates they believe Earth is their only hope for survival." Diplomat Jariel, still weakened but determined to speak, addressed the assembly. "Your withdrawal revealed a truth none of us wished to see. Human innovation was the foundation of our modern galactic economy. Human diplomacy kept ancient enemies at peace." George Mason finally spoke, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "You dismissed us as newcomers. You restricted our colonies. You treated our ambassadors with contempt." "Yes," Jariel admitted. "The older races feared your potential. In 3 centuries, you advanced what took most species millennia." The room fell silent as President Clark rose. "Captain Flynn, in your professional opinion, what happens if we maintain our isolation policy?" Flynn didn't hesitate. "The refugee crisis will reach our borders within 2 weeks. Behind them, expanding empires will eventually reach human space. We can defend ourselves, but the cost would be enormous." Lisa Nelson and Paul Howard, present to provide scientific analysis, exchanged glances before Lisa spoke up. "There's another factor to consider, Madam President. During our isolation, Earth's research teams have made significant breakthroughs. Our technology now exceeds pre-withdrawal levels by approximately 30%. "Meaning?" the President asked. "Meaning we're in a position of strength," Paul explained. "If we choose to re-engage, we do so as the dominant power, not as supplicants." Olivia Grant, invited to testify about her rescue of the Corelli survivors, stood up from the audience. "These people are suffering. While we debate, worlds burn. I've seen it firsthand." The President nodded slowly. "Thank you, Captain Grant. Your compassion does you credit." She turned to her chief diplomat. "Kevin Russell, your recommendation." Russell, a veteran negotiator with silver hair and steady hands, considered before speaking. "I recommend conditional re-engagement. We can offer assistance, but on our terms. The galaxy has learned what happens without humanity. Now they must accept us as equals, or better." Admiral Wilson added, "We should establish a security perimeter for the refugees while negotiations proceed. Show strength and compassion simultaneously." The President looked to George Mason, whose decision had started this chain of events. "Director Mason, your thoughts carry particular weight here." Mason stood slowly, looking at the images of destruction, at the refugee fleet, and finally at Jariel. "When we left the table, we did so because the galaxy wouldn't respect us." He paused. "Perhaps now they will. I support re-engagement, but only with guarantees that humanity's voice will be heard." President Clark surveyed the room. "We will vote. The future of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, depends on our decision. One by one, the council members registered their votes. When the final tally appeared, it was unanimous. "Very well," the president announced. "Earth will re-engage with galactic society, but on our terms. Ambassador Russell, assemble your team. You will meet the refugee fleet at the edge of our space and begin preparations for a new galactic accord." As the meeting adjourned, George Mason approached Turiel. "I hope your people have learned their lesson." "We have," the alien replied softly. "The question is, have you learned yours? Power without wisdom destroys itself." George smiled thinly. "I guess we'll find out together." The neutral station orbiting Europa had been hastily repurposed for the most important diplomatic summit in recent galactic history. Once a research outpost, its central chamber now held representatives from 17 different species, all watching as Ambassador Nicole Carter entered with her team. Nicole walked with measured steps, her blue diplomatic uniform pristine, her expression revealing nothing. At 45, she had spent decades in negotiation rooms, but never with stakes this high. Behind her came Kevin Russell, Earth's seasoned diplomat, Dr. Lisa Nelson, ready to discuss technological cooperation, and Admiral Wilson, whose presence made Earth's military strength clear without words. "Representatives of the galactic community," Nicole began, her voice steady. "Earth welcomes you to this summit." The alien delegates stirred. Some showed obvious relief, others wariness. A tall Xanthari rose from his seat. "Ambassador Carter, while we appreciate Earth's reconsideration of its isolation policy, we must clarify that certain historical agreements should remain in force." Nicole smiled slightly. "That's not why we're here, Representative Morax. Earth isn't returning to the old conclave. We're establishing new terms." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Lantian delegate leaned forward. "What terms do you propose?" Kevin Russell activated the central display, showing a detailed proposal. First, a non-aggression pact between all signatories. Second, recognition of expanded human territories, including the Proxima and Tau Ceti systems. "Those areas border Brachian space," objected their representative, a hulking figure with crystalline skin. "We have historical claims." Third, Nicole continued as if there had been no interruption. "Earth will establish refugee processing centers and provide humanitarian aid to displaced populations." This silenced the objections temporarily. The refugee crisis affected every species present. "And fourth," she said, her tone hardening slightly, "all technology sharing will be reciprocal and fairly compensated. No more restrictive classifications on human innovations." The Xanthari representative stood again. "These demands are unprecedented. The Conclave has protocols." "The Conclave is gone," Nicole stated flatly. "Your own actions destroyed it. Half the galaxy burns while former allies slaughter each other over resources and ancient grudges. Earth is offering a path forward, not backward." Admiral Wilson stepped forward. "Perhaps a demonstration would help clarify our position." At her signal, the station's exterior cameras activated. The main screen showed a small Earth vessel approaching a debris field near the station, wreckage from a recent battle. "This is our new environmental restoration system," Lisa Nelson explained. "Watch." The vessel released hundreds of tiny drones that swarmed toward the debris. Within minutes, they began assembling the fragments into organized structures. "These nanobots can reclaim 90% of materials from battle debris," Lisa continued. "They can also begin terraforming damaged worlds within weeks instead of centuries." The chamber fell silent as the aliens watched technology far beyond their own capabilities. Nicole let the moment stretch before speaking again. "During our isolation, Earth continued to innovate. We have similar advancements in medicine, energy production, and FTL travel. We're prepared to share these, under the right circumstances." The Lantian delegate was the first to recover. "These terms, they would fundamentally alter the balance of power." "The old balance failed," Kevin Russell pointed out. That's why you're all here instead of trying to destroy each other. Nickel surveyed the room. Earth withdraws from the table once. We won't do it again. But we won't return to a seat in the corner either. She gestured to the document displayed before them. These are our terms. The refugee crisis won't wait for lengthy deliberations. The Corelli representative, whose world had been among the first destroyed, spoke softly. We accept Earth's terms. One by one, the others indicated their positions. Some readily agreed, desperate for Earth's help. Others reluctantly nodded, seeing no alternative. When the Zinthari finally consented, Nickel allowed herself a small smile. Then let's begin writing a new chapter in galactic history, she said, one where humanity's voice is heard clearly. As the formal drafting began, Kevin leaned close to Nicole. They're not happy. No, she agreed quietly. But they're here. That's enough for now. 1 year after Earth's re-engagement, Ambassador Nicole Carter stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station. The massive structure orbited at Earth's L5 point, serving as the headquarters for the reformed Galactic Council. Below her, ships from 24 species moved in orderly patterns, a dance of commerce and cooperation that would have been unimaginable 18 months ago. Quite a view, said a voice behind her. Nicole turned to see Admiral Wilson approaching, her uniform now adorned with the insignia of the Joint Defense Force. Sometimes I still can't believe how far we've come, Nicole admitted. 300 refugee worlds stabilized, 16 major conflicts resolved, and trade up 60% across all sectors, Wilson recited. Not bad for a year's work. They both knew the statistics only told part of the story. The rebuilding had been difficult, the negotiations often tense. Earth's new position of strength had generated both gratitude and resentment. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. The station's eye spoke. Ambassador Carter, the Galactic Council session will begin in 15 minutes. Thank you, Nicole replied. Is everyone present? All 17 permanent members have arrived. The Zinthari representative wishes to speak with you beforehand. Nicole sighed. Of course he does. Want backup? Wilson offered. No, Morax still finds you intimidating. Good. The Admiral smiled. That's the point. The private meeting chamber was designed to accommodate all galactic species comfortably. Morax, the Zinthari representative, waited inside, his blue skin catching the light as he paced. Ambassador Carter, he greeted, inclining his head slightly. Thank you for seeing me. What can I do for you, Representative Morax? There are concerns about the Mars Accords implementation. Some feel the timetable for demilitarization is aggressive. Nicole kept her expression neutral. The timetable was agreed upon by all parties, including the Zinthari Empire. Yes, but circumstances have improved dramatically under human guidance, she finished for him. Your economy has stabilized. Your borders are secure. The refugee crisis is resolving. Morax's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of frustration in his species. You must understand. For millennia, the Zinthari led through strength. This new arrangement, with Earth at the center, is working, Nicole said simply. Do you want to return to the chaos of last year? The alien hesitated. No, but some adjustments can be proposed formally at today's session, she concluded. That's how the new council works. Everyone has a voice. Morax nodded reluctantly. Very well. We will address it through proper channels. As they walked together toward the council chamber, Nicole observed the many species working side by side in the station corridors. Human engineers collaborated with Lantine architects. Corelli scientists shared findings with Earth researchers. It is remarkable, Morax admitted, following her gaze. Even those of us who once doubted humanity's importance now see what you bring to our collective. We just think differently, Nicole replied. Human history is short but intense. We learn to adapt quickly or perish. They reached the grand doors of the council chamber. Inside, the circular room held representatives from across the galaxy, seated as equals for the first time. "One question, Ambassador," Morax said quietly. "Was this your plan all along? Did Earth withdraw knowing what would happen?" Nickel smiled enigmatically. "Would you believe me if I said no?" Before he could answer, the doors opened. The assembled delegates rose as Nicole entered. At the center of the chamber stood a table with no head seat, a circle where all positions were equal. As Nicole took her place, she looked at the faces around her, alien and human, former enemies, now cautious allies. The galaxy had learned its lesson about human value. And humans had learned something too. Leadership meant responsibility, not just power. "The council is now in session," she announced. "Let's continue building the future, together." Above them, visible through the transparent dome, Earth shone blue and beautiful. Once a latecomer to the galactic community, now its heart. The humans had left the table once, and the stars had fallen silent. Now they spoke again, in a new harmony, with humanity's voice clear among them. The message arrived on a Tuesday. Jack Powell rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the monitor, thinking at first it was an equipment malfunction. The radio telescope at Arecibo had picked up something unusual, a pattern too regular to be natural, too complex to be coincidence. "Hey Diane, can you look at this?" he called to his colleague across the room. Diane Foster set down her coffee mug and walked over, leaning in to see the screen. Her eyes widened. "That's not one of ours." Within hours, the NASA control room filled with experts. By evening, the president had been briefed. Within days, the world knew humanity was not alone. The signals continued, growing more complex. Jack, with his background in linguistics and pattern recognition, found himself unexpectedly at the center of humanity's most important conversation. His small apartment was soon filled with books on mathematical communication theory and xenolinguistics. "It's a primer," he explained to the Joint Chiefs 3 weeks later. "They're teaching us their language before sending more complex information." The Valthran, as they called themselves, seemed peaceful. Their messages described a vast consortium of species united in exploration and commerce. Images they transmitted showed beautiful ships and harmonious cities. Earth responded with its own messages, information about human culture, science, and hopes. Olivia Marsh, a seasoned diplomat with the UN, was appointed director of the newly formed Interstellar Diplomatic Corps. She worked closely with Jack's team, carefully crafting Earth's responses. "We need to be cautious but welcoming," she told the Security Council. "This could be the greatest opportunity in human history." 6 months after first contact, the Valthran announced they would send a delegation. Their ship entered orbit on a clear autumn morning, a gleaming silver vessel that outshone the stars even in daylight. The landing site in Geneva was surrounded by thousands of spectators. World leaders stood in a semicircle as the ship descended silently to the ground. When the hatch opened, humans collectively held their breath. The Valthran were tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors with their movements. Their ambassador, who called himself Nexer, stepped forward with 4 long-fingered hands raised in what they had explained was a gesture of peace. "We greet Earth with friendship," Nexer said through a translator device. "The stars have been lonely without you." The crowd erupted in cheers. Reporters broadcast the historic moment to billions watching around the world. Children in classrooms drew pictures of their new friends from space. Scientists eagerly anticipated technological exchanges. In his modest office, Jack Powell watched the ceremony with mixed emotions. The linguistics team had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, but something about the Valthran's perfect messages bothered him. They seemed too perfectly calibrated to appeal to human desires. "What do you think?" Diane asked, noticing his frown. "I think they've done this before," he said quietly. The first gifts from the Valthran arrived a week later. Medical technology that could cure several forms of cancer, efficient energy cells that produced no pollution, and agricultural techniques that promised to end food shortages. World leaders eagerly signed the initial cooperation agreements. Stock markets soared. Religious leaders debated the theological implications. Children played with toys modeled after Valfriend ships. Only Olivia Marsh noticed the fine print in the agreements, clauses about resource rights and governance consultation that seemed innocuous, but gave the Valfriend surprising influence in Earth affairs. "We're moving too fast," she warned the Security Council. "We should take more time to understand them." But humanity was already enraptured with their new friends among the stars. The future seemed brighter than ever before. No one yet realized the true cost of that light.